we conducted a study, which you will have received a copy of. This study over here is probably a first of its kind. And what it shows is that there's $19 odd billion spent on corporate social responsibility from the Fortune Global 500 list. 500 of the biggest companies in the world, of which just over $2 billion of that corporate social responsibility money is spent on education. That's 13%. So when you have great examples of companies doing really, really phenomenal things to support countries which are the most deserving, they need to be showcased, they need to be celebrated. So the campaign seeks to rally the private sector to have a larger say and actually meaningful engagement with the education sector in particular. Today we are honored that we have amongst ourselves such a distinguished panel, and our moderator for the afternoon is Esteban Bullrich. Esteban is the Education Minister for Buenos Aires, and he's also a young global leader at the forum.
Good afternoon to everyone. I want to thank the Varkey Gen Foundation for the invitation and the honor, and obviously the Business Back Education Initiative. Some facts that come out of the report that Vikas has mentioned. Today we have, in developing countries, a quarter of the youth unemployed. When you ask those that are working, young people that are working, almost half of them said that they are working in a job that has no relation whatsoever with their field of study. When you ask companies, the situation in Europe, last year, a job showed that 40% of employers are struggling to get the people they need. And even 70% of them blame the education system for what's going on. Now, as Vikas was saying, CSR money is not focusing on education. Around 10% of the 20 billion that go to CSR of the Fortune 500 companies go to education. And that includes only 40% of the companies. More than half of the companies don't invest any money in education in CSR.
I've spent 25 years in technology. Latest co-CEO of SAP, an industry that has arguably evolved extremely over the last 25 years. And I came to Davos a couple of years ago as the CEO, and I was so proud of all the jobs we were creating. And I got the question for the first time, are you killing more jobs than you're creating in the IT industry? That made me reflect as a leader, what is going on and what is the change. Now, the easy answer to the question, why am I engaged in education, is because every betterment in this world starts with education. We all know that. But I actually believe there's a more profound challenge ahead of us due to technology. The way I could best describe that is that the transition from agriculture to the industrial age was a rather significant change of skill sets. And that meant that some jobs were killed in one part of the industry, but others were created. And the similar change is happening now, I argue, from an industrial age to a digital age. The challenge this time is, though, that while the agriculture to industry change happened, it happened over almost 2 generations. So you had time for the system to adjust. And I'm arguing that this digital change, because it's the digital technology and economy is an exponential curve. We are now beginning to come to the part of that curve which makes it extremely interesting. It's very steep, which means I predict that the next 5 years will be more change than the last 50 were. That's the nature of exponential curves. Now, if that is true, then within 10 years, the impact of digital that goes into every single industry we have is going to be so profound. And the speed is going to happen so fast that if we lean back and come with the normal argument that society will have to fix the education problem, if we stick to our assumption that you get educated 25 years and then you work for the next 25, 40 years, then we're completely missing the opportunity that this world has with the digital technology. So the only solution I saw to your question was that business would actively engage in solving the skill gap that is going to be very significant, and if we don't, the future of work, and in particular young people who are the digital natives, will limit our opportunities in this next stage.
There were two things that I think were really interesting out of our experience. The first was that we wanted to involve business in education, in skills, and actually in also partnering, public-private partnerships for the running of schools. And we established a system called the Academy System that the present government has now taken forward, which allows business to play a role in helping schools and supporting them. And, you know, to me, today, the whole of the public sector is about breaking down barriers between public, private, and voluntary sector, and education should be one major component of that. So that was one thing that was hugely important. The other thing that I think is really important that business can play a part in educational change and reform is helping the educational system innovate. So, for example, technology is not just important for people to better use, it's important to transform the way we teach and the way we learn. So this is, I think, our lessons, and I think these lessons, by the way, are replicable in education systems around the world.
And I must say that I very much appreciate the initiative by the Varkey Foundation to, well, invite the representative of these conservative education unions to start a dialogue with your people. We believe that it is very important that business backs education and that you back the teaching profession. We need you. We need you badly, because the teaching profession today is gradually transforming from a profession into a teaching force that has no longer the autonomy, the professional autonomy to design the education process to help children meet individual needs. So we need the support of the business community, and I think that starts with a dialogue. It's very strange that such a dialogue does not yet exist. We need to establish it at system level, nationally and internationally. I truly believe that is very important. Also, to identify the soft skills that you believe are needed for your employees tomorrow. I personally am of the opinion that what in your documents is being called traditional systems, the public school systems. The word traditional also creates the impression, well, it's past century. We better invent something else. I believe that our traditional education systems are constantly changing and trying to adapt to present-day needs. But we do need to dialogue about what those needs are and how you can help us meet those needs. And finally, everybody should understand that when you order a new skill today, it'll be not delivered tomorrow before noon.
Students operates in 20 African countries. We have businesses in 20 African countries. We operate in different sectors from financial services, oil and gas, power, and real estate and hospitality. We have come to realize that quantity is not the issue on the continent. Quality is extremely important. And when we say quality, we're not talking just about MBAs and BScs. Quality as in functional education and the product of functional education. So that got us thinking about how to, one, even meet our own aspirations or needs. Two, how we can democratize and make available for the entire continent, starting from Nigeria, this badly needed scarce resource that is well-trained, functionally trained, vocational, skilled workers. And one of the solutions we came to is a partnership with GEMS. So we approach GEMS and say, let's partner starting from Nigeria, with intent to spread across Africa. We want, at the end of the day, to help create vocational. We're setting up a vocational training institute that will help train people to become more skilled at different sectors. In addition to that, we also are leading certain advocacies in the area of trying to integrate skills education early on in the education curriculum of our schools. So that it's not only when you finish that we begin to retrain people. If you have some hours of courses every week or every year in certain vocational areas, at secondary school level in particular, it will help to develop and prepare our workforce or our graduates. When I say graduates, not just university graduates who have come through school, to be able to fit into the jobs that we have to offer, we as in the private sector. So I like to back the business back education movement, because you can't be training for future employers when you don't know the needs or requirements of future employers. So getting them integrated in this form is very, very good.
One of the things that interests me about government, as I say, studying government, is that whatever field of government you're in, usually someone somewhere in the world is getting it right. And what's weird about government is that government doesn't often go and look and see who's getting it right, why, and what lessons might you learn from that. It's one of these strange things about the culture of politics. And so I think in education, both in the developed nation, but also increasingly today in developing nations, there are real examples of what can work and what isn't working across the world. And in the use of technology, by the way, where people have access to electricity, obviously, because that's preconditional, there are really interesting examples of things happening in education that I think we could replicate very easily. So, I think there's a whole business angle to this, it's true, but there's also trying to embed a culture of learning the lessons from across the world as to what works and what doesn't, and then this, as I say, this culture of innovation and creativity, where we're constantly looking at not just how we teach better, but how we teach differently as different opportunities emerge to do it in a more creative and innovative way.
Well, one of the reasons I decided to join the forum is that the forum is a unique platform to foster collaboration between business, public sector, and even social society. So we have a platform here, and by the way, just 1.5 hours ago, we signed a contract with the Swiss government that makes the forum an international institution for public-private partnership, equal to what the Red Cross is, which gives the forum even more opportunity, not just to analyze, but to actually bring the players together that can accelerate and become a catalyst for change. And I come back to my concern about the speed. What we've done in the forum, we have access to some of the leading businesses in the world, and we have decided to focus efforts on 10 major themes. We call them global challenges. One of them we call employment, skill, and human capital. So it's one of 10 important, and don't forget, it's climate change and agriculture and food as well. It's infrastructure. It's the future of the internet. So it's up there among the 10 most important problems to get solved. We have in our IBC the international business community, or community that's governing and guiding the forum. The problem of unemployment has been on the radar now for quite a while. Last year, we decided that this would be a very important project, and we actually worked with our partners, our members, and you'll find this document, because to the point made earlier, this is called Disrupting Unemployment, Business-Led Solutions for Action. This is a collection of 64 stories, examples, where companies took an active role in trying to either make sure that the skill that can find employment is educated, that there is backing for startup so that you can create your own job, or that there is a matching between skills and employment in the market. I believe technology is the major disruptor that causes an unemployment situation, and it's not just about how many can we skill, it's about how do we develop the skills needed. If not, you get a nice education, and still don't get a job. So, in one way, I'm a technologist, and I'm embarrassed that technology is the root cause of this change, yet that future is a better future. And therefore, at the same time, technology might be part of the solution. We've tried many of these massive open courses. I'm attending psychology at Stanford. I haven't been there yet. We're in a world where all the knowledge there is between 7 billion people is available at one click at zero cost. That's the world we're going into. So if we could leverage that and help guide to the right skills through the efforts that we're doing, I think we have also in technology a possible solution to the problem.
And just to say once again what a pleasure it is to be at this this gathering, what an important topic I think it is. And I'd like to see at some point, I think what would be great is to get a forum together in which governments could come and see some of the main innovations that are happening in the educational sphere. And I know that the conference in Dubai, I think, will examine some of those questions. But I think for governments, this is an enormous challenge. I mean, every government around the world talks about education as incredibly important. And yet, let's be clear, I mean, even in the most sophisticated education systems in the world, there are still a very large number of kids not getting the education they need. And it's just so obvious and so clear that today this is the key that unlocks the future for young people. That I think the more we can get that relationship between business and government right, then the more possibility there is of accelerating the process of reform and deepening it.
I want to say one quick comment. I think we spend a lot of time, even in the WEF, we spend a lot of time thinking what kind of world we're going to leave to our children. And we spend very little time thinking what kind of children we're going to leave to our world. So I hope these kind of conversations help in doing that. Vikas.